What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in, Baltimore Ravens fans. Welcome back to the Draft Hub. And today we are going to be going over my 7 round 2026 Baltimore Ravens mock draft. Now, the Ravens just missed out on the playoffs. And to be honest with you, I don't really know if the Ravens playing the Texans in the first round would have meant that they moved on past the wild card weekend, but missing the field goal and missing out on the playoffs was huge. John Harbaugh is gone, so this is going to be the first time in a really long time that the Ravens are going to kind of sort of have a new look, a new feel to them. Can they get back to the badass Ravens, of the early 2000s? It remains to be seen who they hire, but I think Eric DeCosta is going to, you know, obviously do a fine job. He's one of the better GMs in all of football, in my opinion. But we're here today to kind of prioritize Lamar Jackson and the offensive line. So really line play in general. So I'm going to be targeting the interior of the offensive line quite a bit. I'm going to be targeting the defensive line, pass rushing. Now, more pass rushers more than the interior of the defensive line. Madueke is coming back healthy next year, so that's a big plus for them, but they still could use an interior defensive lineman relatively early. Looking for a tight end as well. Going to be looking to upgrade the safety positions, wide receivers as well. And then maybe later on, we'll be able to get some depth pieces on the offensive line, maybe a running back, maybe a corner, something like that. But I want to prioritize getting another tight end that can block. Isaiah Likely is probably someone that I would be surprised if he is back long term. I know that Tyler Linderbaum is a free agent and he needs to be priority number one. That needs to be, if you make one signing this offseason, if you're the Baltimore Ravens, it is bringing back Tyler Linderbaum. So that needs to be the priority. Don't know if they'll have enough cash to bring back Isaiah Likely. I'm sure that in a weak tight end position overall, I'm sure that Isaiah Likely is going to command quite a bit of currency. So we'll see if we could add someone in the middle to late rounds there. So let's take a look at what we got so far. So let's start the draft here. This is obviously, we're going to make do with what we have. Tough call right away. Peter Woods is on the board. I think that's an immediate upgrade. Couldn't play the 3 tech as well for the Baltimore Ravens. Don't really know what type of, defensive front we're looking at for the Baltimore Ravens with new coaches coming in. Let's take a look at who else is on the board. Now, right away, I'm drawn to Francis Mauigoa. I'm also drawn to Vega Owane at this pick, number 14. I think Owane maybe just a touch too early for him, especially with players like Mauigoa on the board and Spencer Fano. Here's the reason why, for at least the Ravens, I like Mauigoa over Fano and Owane. Owane primarily plays on the left side. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't play right guard either, but Mauigoa is someone that I think makes a lot of sense for the Ravens because he's so interchangeable on the right side. Roger Rosengarten actually played pretty well this past season at right tackle, so maybe you want to keep him there. You want to stick him at right tackle, or if you want to reduce him back inside and play right guard, you can put Mauigoa right away at right tackle. But either way, I think it offers you a lot of versatility with an offensive line as poor as the Ravens, at least on the interior. You do need some versatility. So I think Mauigoa is going to be the way for me. Peter Woods is kind of tough to pass up at this point, but like I said before, with Madueke coming back, I don't think defensive line is as nearly as a pressing need. People tend to forget that they played 15 games this year without Noni Madueke. So, I think we could hold off on that to the second, maybe even the third round, get more of a run stuffing type of defensive tackle because the Ravens ranked, I think, ninth lowest in the NFL against the run this past year in terms of graded out run defenses. So I'm going to stick with the offensive line here. I think that's priority one, and I think Mauigoa potentially has the potential to be the best offensive lineman from this draft class, and he's a very Baltimore Ravens type of lineman, in my opinion. 6'6", 335, moves extremely well. I categorize his tape as boring because he does everything really well. There's nothing really to nitpick about his game. Also, someone that can reduce inside, Rosengarten is the smaller, the 6'6", 300-pounder. Maybe Mauigoa is more fit to play on the outside. Either way, I think it allows you a lot of versatility, and I think Mauigoa is the way to go at number 14 if he's on the board. So let's see what we got here at 45 and 80 next. So these are big picks for us here. I'm going to try and target someone as a pass rusher. Now, AJ Halsey is a player that I like a lot. But with Kyle Hamilton, with Malachi Starks, I don't think safety is as big of a need inside the top 100. I know Aloe Gilman is a free agent as well, and they definitely do need depth at the safety position. But I'm really looking for a starter here on the defensive line. I'm not looking for a depth piece this early. Going to be tough to pass up on AJ Halsey, but let's see what we can come up with here. Let's take a look at the edge. Let's see. We got Zion Young as a player that interests me quite a bit. Just an extremely well-rounded player, and I think he fits what the Ravens are looking for an edge rusher quite a bit. I think he's very underrated in this edge class. Let's take a look at wide receiver, just because Omar Cooper, Jacoby Lane, CJ Daniels. These are really Skylar Bell is someone that I might target with the next pick, depending. But and that's Zachariah Branch is also another player that I like quite a bit. All right, let's just take a look at what a trade down would look like. 48. Maybe we can. It doesn't really do us much good. We can't acquire 79, and I'm not really interested in getting number 114 back. I don't even think we'll be able to get 114 back, just moving back 3 spots. So we're going to hold off on trading back here. Halsey really does interest me quite a bit here. But I'm going to stick with what I said. Oh, Dylan Thieneman is here too. Eli Stowers. Wow, this is a little bit of a tough decision for me for the most part. I'm going to have to stay true, though, and I'm going to have to go with Zion Young. Zion Young, 6'5, 275 pounds, an incredible season for the Missouri Tigers this past year. He's a player that really is just completely well-rounded, really good against the run, really good against the pass as well, as a pass rusher. I mean, just gets to the quarterback at a very, very high clip, just very disciplined as well, too. So, well, except for I think he like punched someone on the sideline one time, but whatever. In the heat of the moment, I mean, as a player, he's very disciplined. A really, really strong player overall. I think he would fit exactly what the Ravens are looking for off the edge as a long-term replacement to Kyle Van Noy. As Mike Green continues to get up to speed, I don't think that we're going to be giving up on Mike Green anytime soon either. So I think Zion Young paired with Mike Green would be a really nice pass rush rotation for the Baltimore Ravens, and he gives you much more than just a pass rusher. He's an elite run defender as well from the edge rushing position. And we are going to take Zion Young here at number 45. Now, really tough to pass up on those other guys, but if we didn't have Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks, I would 100% be going for it. But I just can't. It seems like such more of a luxury pick at that point to take someone along those lines. Now let's take a look at the defensive line. I want to add to the defensive line a little bit more, and Darrell Jackson Jr. is the player that I am looking for here at number 80. Darrell Jackson Jr., incredible against the run. I believe what six, yeah, I was going to say 6'5, 337. I was going to say 330, but around there, just a really well-rounded player for the most part. Not going to bring a ton as a pass rusher, admittedly, but he does have a couple of solid seasons in his past. Last year, he was solid, 5 sacks, 23 hurries, played more of a run defense role for the Seminoles this past year and did very, very well. Just a well-rounded player overall, a massive man to put in the middle of your defensive line. And I think with the Ravens being as poor against the run as they were, I think it makes a lot of sense to continue to add to the defensive side of the ball. So at 80, I'm going to go with Darrell Jackson Jr., and we're really, really bolstering up this defensive side of the ball here. So we took Francis Mauigoa at 14. At 45, we took Zion Young. At 30, we took Darrell Jackson Jr. Now, with the next pick, I'm going to be looking to potentially add maybe a wide receiver at this point. So I'm not incredibly pressed to add a wide receiver. You forget that Rashad Bateman was out for basically the entire year this year. DeAndre Hopkins really served as the wide receiver too. That's not really saying too much for the most part, but you still have Rashad Bateman coming back healthy. You have Zay Flowers, who was a Pro Bowler again this year. And don't forget about Devontae Walker, someone that I think really, wow, that's very early for Deshaun Stribling. I'm very surprised at that pick. And you also have Devontae Walker, who actually blossomed pretty nicely towards the end of the year into a more prominent role. So maybe I'm not as pressed to add someone along the wide receiver room. Let's take a look at the safeties that are on the board at this point. Let's maybe continue. Michael Taft is strong. Bray Hubbard did go back to school, so that's out. Jalen Stroman is a player that was pretty good this past year as well in coverage. That might be the route that we go. I'm going to have to hold off on that for now because I think maybe even adding a safety later. Michael Taft is a really, really good coverage player as well. someone that could just command center field out there, really allow Kyle Hamilton to come down for the most part. I don't know off the top of my head if the Ravens do play with three safeties a lot, but that would be quite the addition here. Let's take a look at wide receiver. Let's just see what we got. Eric McAllister, Ted Hurst is really good. Really good. I'm thinking about maybe adding Chase Roberts with the next pick, so I might be able to hold off there. McAllister is really good though. Seems like a very Baltimore Ravens esque wide receiver. I'm not talking about the fact that the Horned Frogs basically wear purple, white, and black, but McAllister is just. You ever realize that every year one wide receiver out of TCU comes out and is just like an athletic specimen that they like built in a lab? That's exactly what McAllister is. He's a really strong wide receiver, and I know that they do have Devontae Walker. Let's take a look at the offensive line again. We still need to add another starting caliber guard, in my opinion. I don't think Andrew Voorhees is going to cut it. Keelan Rutledge is really good. So is DJ Campbell. DJ Campbell, very athletic for a size 6'6", 335 pounds. Just a relatively overall good player for the Texas Longhorns this past year. I think that's going to the move that we're going to make. I think we're going to continue to add to the offensive line. We got Mawagoa, who could play tackle, who could play guard. Now let's get a mauling run blocker in DJ Campbell. That's just a very well-rounded overall player. So instead, in lieu of wide receiver, I'm going to add a guard here, and then we might come around and add Chase Roberts around pick number 156. But I kind of like the way that this has fallen so far. I think we're really prioritizing the trenches. I think that's something that the Baltimore Ravens really need to do in this draft class here. At 152, Miles Kitselman makes a lot of sense for me here as well. Really, really strong blocking tight end. Maybe that's something that we could hold off on here. I think there's a couple that I was looking at down the board that are very good. Nate Borkircher is really good as well as a blocking tight end. Maybe we'll hold off until 160 or 172. Let's add a wide receiver here at this point. I'm hoping Chase Roberts is still on the board, and he is. Kevin Coleman makes a lot of sense here too, but Roberts, 6'3", 210 pounds. He's a no block, no rock type of wide receiver. He's someone that I think that could, where you have Zay Flowers, who's probably going to play predominantly in the slot, and then you have Rashad Bateman on the outside. You have Devontae Walker that could slide in and out as your wide receiver 3 or 4. I think Roberts allows you to kind of really play mix and match with the personnel that you put out there, and he's extremely solid as a run blocker. Really, really good in the red zone as well. I feel like that's a presence that the Baltimore Ravens have missed for quite some time at this point. And Roberts is a player that I like quite a bit. And I think that he's very undervalued in this draft class. And he feels like a Baltimore Ravens wide receiver. So we're going to take Chase Roberts here at number 152. Hopefully 160 or 172, we can come around and get Nate Borkircher. Let's take a look at safety, though. Bishop Fitzgerald is a player that I like quite a bit. Gave up a little bit too much in terms of coverage touchdowns last year. I think he gave up like 5 coverage touchdowns last year. Let's take a look. But he was exceptional as a ball hawk. That could be what I'm looking for here. 5'11", 205. Yeah, give up what? Where was it? 3 touchdowns allowed, 5 interceptions. You know, a little bit too much for me, but did play well this year. I think this is a player that I'd love to add to the secondary at this point. 160, I think we could probably come around and get a blocking tight end at 172. I think Bishop Fitzgerald is going, and then with the other picks after that, we could continue to bolster the defensive line, maybe add a cornerback at some point as well. So I think adding Bishop Fitzgerald would make a lot of sense here. He's a good ball hawking safety. The coverage concerns, I think he's really more all or nothing. I think this is someone that could be coached a little bit out of him at this point. So I'm going to probably pass. I'm probably going to lose Miles Kitselman, but we're going to get Nate Borkircher at 172. So I'm going to take Bishop Fitzgerald here at 160 to bolster the secondary. And then at 172, Miles Kitselman just went off the board. But Nate Borkircher is the player that we're going to get out of A&M. Really, really good blocking tight end. And I feel like this is kind of what we need at this point. He was good. 19 catches, 198 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's someone that's, not going to really light up the world as a second option. But if Isaiah Likely does go, I believe, do the Do the Ravens still have Charlie Kohler? I don't know off the top of my head, but either way, I think adding a tight end 3 that can block and is as athletic as Nate Boerkircher does make a lot of sense here. This is gonna be the player that I add at this point here. I just know that the Ravens love their blocking tight ends, and this is someone that could definitely make a living on Sundays as a blocking tight end. So we're gonna take him at 172. And at 173, I think we're gonna continue to add to the defensive line. Demonte Capehart is the player that I'm kind of looking at here. Let's take a look at edge just before anything else. A couple really strong players here. Kerryon Crawford is a player that I like quite a bit. We might be able to wait and get another defensive lineman later at 249. Maybe we'll be able to package those picks and kind of move up just a little bit at this point. But I would really like to get Rayshon Benny is a player that I like quite a bit. Is a little bit more well rounded than a Demonte Capehart. At least he gives you a little bit of something as a pass rusher, whereas Capehart is just really primarily a run defender. I think Benny is going to be the way that I go here. I think he's someone that can play the 3 tech as well. He's 6'5", 305 pounds, where Capehart's going to be more of that 6'4", 330 pounds, going to be more of that bowling ball type of guy. Zane Durant interests me quite a bit as well, but I'm going to hold off on that. I think Benny is more of the productive player right now. I think it's a player that I'm going to add at 173. So we're going to put Rayshon Benny at 173. And then coming back around at 249 and 252, I'd like to add a developmental pass rusher at this point, and then potentially adding another offensive lineman. We'll see what we can get at this point. I didn't really add to the cornerback room. I added a tight end, safety. Maybe we can get another safety at some point as well. I was curious as if I should add a running back, but I think I'm going to hold off on that for now. Maybe we could find someone around here that's worth it as a selection. I just think with all the undrafted free agents that are going to come out, this isn't the strongest running back class. I don't even think it's worth taking one in the compensatory picks here at the end of the 7th round. That's just my opinion. I mean, maybe other people think of it differently, but there's a couple really okay. So Kerryon Crawford is still here. There's a really strong developmental edge rushers here. Crawford is a player that excelled with Keldrick Falk on the other side. So, he's been okay the last couple of years, 7 sacks a couple of years ago. But this past year, he was really, really strong, very well rounded this past year. And I think a lot of it has to do with having Keldrick Falk on the other side. But he's a prototypical 6'4", 255, could be a stand-up rush linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens if they continue to play an odd front. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm going to take Kerryon Crawford at 249 and at 252. Let's see what we could add. Let's just see. Maybe there's a wide receiver that we like. Harrison Wallace is someone that interests me. Same thing with Lewis Bond, as well as more of those like gadgety type of wide receivers. We added a tight end. We added to the offensive line. Maybe there's a corner here that interests us just to take as a developmental guy. Amari Jackson is someone that didn't get to play too much this past year for Maryland. He's a player that I like quite a bit. Colin Wright is here, and I think that might be the pick that I make at 252. This is a really strong, well-rounded corner that I don't think will probably be here at when draft day comes, just because I think he'll test very well. But he is a very, very strong coverage player, especially in zone coverage as well. And I think that's the way that we're going to go here. We're going to rock with Colin Wright, very, very smart player as well. 5'10", 200 pounds, comes with a good frame. I think that's going to be the way that we end out this mock draft for the Baltimore Ravens. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is our 7-round 2026 Baltimore Ravens mock draft. I think this might be the first mock draft I did this year where I didn't make a single trade up or trade down. At 14, we got Francis Mauigoa to play either right tackle or right guard. At 45, we got Zion Young, an extremely well-rounded edge rusher. At 80, we got Darrell Jackson Jr. to plug up the middle of our defensive line. At 115, we got DJ Campbell. At 152, we got Chase Roberts. 160, we got Bishop Fitzgerald. At 172, we got Nate Boerkircher, excuse me. At 173, we got Rayshon Benny. At 249, we got Kerryon Crawford. And then at 252, we got Colin Wright. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.